26,000 feet above sea level, in the place mountaineers simply call the Death Zone, a climber is on his knees in the snow. He has the best equipment money can buy. He has bottled oxygen strapped to his back. He has trained for 2 years for this exact morning. And still, his body is shutting down, his lungs clawing at air that holds barely a third of the oxygen his cells are screaming for, his blood thickening, his brain swelling. Every heartbeat a negotiation with death. Beside him, carrying twice the weight, breathing the same thin and murderous air, a Sherpa adjusts the climber's oxygen mask, checks the rope, and waits. Calm, steady, at home, no bottled oxygen of his own. And here is the question that has haunted mountaineers for a century. Why? Why does the mountain kill the visitor and spare the local? For decades, people muttered about lifelong conditioning, about lungs built by altitude, and they were partly right. But in 2014, scientists found the real answer, and it was so strange, so far outside anything anyone had guessed, that it rewrote what we thought was even possible. The reason the Sherpa can live where you would die is written into a single gene, and that gene did not come from us. It came from a different species of human, one that went extinct tens of thousands of years ago, one whose blood, impossibly, still runs in the people of the high Himalaya. Stay with me, because this is one of the most astonishing things ancient DNA has ever uncovered. And by the end, you'll understand that the Sherpas are carrying, in every cell of their bodies, a gift from a ghost. Here's the thing about DNA. It doesn't forget where it came from. It can carry a fragment of a vanished species across 100,000 years and drop it, still working, still saving lives, into a child born on the roof of the world last spring. Let me show you how. Start with the problem, because to understand the miracle, you have to understand exactly what the mountain does to a human being. At extreme altitude, the air is thin. The oxygen your body depends on for every single function is present at a fraction of its sea level concentration. Your body's natural response to this is, at first, sensible. It starts producing more red blood cells, the cells that carry oxygen, to try to grab as much of the scarce oxygen as it can. For a short visit, that helps. But push higher, or stay longer, and that same response turns lethal. Your blood keeps thickening with more and more red cells until it becomes sludge, viscous, clotting, straining your heart, choking your organs. This is the heart of altitude sickness, and its deadly cousin, chronic mountain sickness. The very adaptation that's supposed to save you becomes the thing that kills you. Your own body, trying to help, thickens your blood into something that can stop your heart. That is what should happen to everyone up there. It's basic human physiology. And it does happen to lowlanders, to climbers, to almost anyone who wasn't born to those heights. But it does not happen to the Sherpas and the wider Tibetan population they descend from. Their bodies do something different, something better. Faced with that same thin, killing air, they do not flood their blood with excess red cells. They keep their blood thinner, cleaner, safer, and yet they deliver oxygen to their tissues with an efficiency that lowlanders can only dream of. They have, in effect, solved the problem that kills everyone else. And for a long time, nobody knew how. The how turned out to be a gene called EPAS1. Sometimes it's nicknamed the super athlete gene, and it's a master regulator. It controls how your body responds to low oxygen, including how many red blood cells it makes. And when geneticists studied Tibetans and Sherpas, they found that they carry a special version of EPAS1, a variant that essentially tells the body, do not overreact, do not flood the blood, do not thicken it into sludge, stay calm, and get more efficient instead. This variant is spectacularly common in Tibetans and rare to non-existent almost everywhere else on Earth. It is one of the strongest signals of natural selection ever found in any human population. Something about that gene was so life or death important at altitude that, over generations, the people without it were far less likely to survive and have healthy children, and the people with it thrived, until nearly the whole population carried it. That, by itself, would have been a remarkable discovery. But then the scientists asked the next question, the obvious one: where did this special version of EPAS1 come from? And the answer is the part that stops your breath more surely than the mountain does. If a fragment of an extinct human species living on in mountaineers today is the kind of thing that gives you goosebumps, then subscribe, not for the algorithm. Because the story of the other humans, the ones who vanished but left their DNA inside us, is one of the wildest chapters in all of science, and there's much more of it here. You'll want to be around for the next piece. In 2014, a team led by the geneticist Rasmus Nielsen and his colleagues, publishing in the journal Nature, traced that Tibetan version of EPAS-1 back to its source. They compared it to the DNA of ancient, archaic humans, and they got a match. The special high-altitude variant of EPAS-1 in Tibetans and Sherpas did not evolve in modern humans at all. It came from the Denisovans, and you need to understand who the Denisovans were to feel the full weight of that. The Denisovans are a ghost species. We didn't even know they existed until 2010, when a fragment of a finger bone from a cave in Siberia, Denisova Cave, was sequenced and turned out to belong to no known human species. Not us, Homo sapiens, not Neanderthals. A third kind of ancient human, a separate branch of the family tree, who lived across Asia and then vanished tens of thousands of years ago. For years, the entire physical record of this whole species of human consisted of little more than a finger bone, a few teeth, and a jaw. They are almost entirely a people made of DNA. A rumor of humanity, a ghost. And here is what happened. Long ago, as modern humans spread across Asia, they met these Denisovans, and they had children together. That mixing left fragments of Denisovan DNA scattered inside living people across Asia and the Pacific to this day. Most of those fragments are just quiet passengers, doing little. But one of them, this one, the EPAS-1 variant, turned out to be a treasure. The Denisovans, having lived in Asia for a very long time, apparently carried a version of this gene suited to challenging environments. When modern humans interbred with them and later pushed up onto the Tibetan plateau, that borrowed Denisovan gene was sitting there in the toolkit, and on the roof of the world, it was worth more than gold. It was the difference between blood that flows and blood that clots. The difference between a child who survives to have children of her own and one who doesn't. And so natural selection went to work on a gift from a vanished species, spreading it through the population until it became the birthright of nearly every Sherpa alive. Think about the chain of events that had to happen for that Sherpa to be kneeling calmly beside the dying climber. A species of human we didn't even know existed until 2010 evolved a useful gene somewhere in ancient Asia. That species then met our ancestors and had children with them, threading their DNA into ours before disappearing from the earth forever. Tens of thousands of years passed. The gift lay dormant, passed silently from parent to child through countless generations who had no idea they were carrying it. And then a group of those descendants climbed onto the highest, thinnest, most oxygen-starved plateau on the planet. And suddenly the ghost's gift became the most valuable thing a body could own. And the mountain itself selected for it, ruthlessly, generation after generation, until it became the quiet superpower of an entire people. The Sherpa on Everest is not just a skilled and hardy human being. He is the living endpoint of a collaboration between two different species of human, separated by 100,000 years, closed by the thin air of the highest place on Earth. Now let me be honest and careful, because the truth here is extraordinary enough without exaggeration. The title says the Sherpas don't die on Everest, and of course, in the literal sense, that's not fully true. Sherpas face terrible dangers on that mountain, and tragically, some do die, especially in avalanches and accidents, and they take on enormous risk doing the hardest and most dangerous work of every expedition. What the genetics explains is not invincibility. It's the specific, physiological reason their bodies handle the low oxygen of extreme altitude so much better than a visitor's body ever could. Why the thin air that devastates a lowlander is something a Sherpa's body simply manages. The EPAS-1 gift is real, and it is powerful, and it is genuinely why they can live, work, and thrive at heights that put everyone else's life in immediate danger. But it's a gift of adaptation, not immortality. And honestly, that makes the human story on that mountain more sobering, not less. People whose ancient DNA lets them survive the altitude, still risking everything, again and again, so that visitors can chase a summit. And here's the wider truth this opens up, the one that should genuinely change how you see yourself. The Sherpas are the most dramatic example, but they are not the only ones carrying ghosts. Nearly every person outside of Africa carries a small amount of Neanderthal DNA. Many people across Asia and the Pacific carry Denisovan DNA. Papuans and some Southeast Asians carry it in significant amounts. These aren't just fossils in a museum. The extinct humans are still here, in fragments, in us, shaping our immune systems, our metabolism, our skin, And, on the roof of the world, our very ability to breathe. We were never the only kind of human. We are the last kind left standing. And we are, all of us, a little bit haunted, carrying pieces of the cousins who didn't make it, woven invisibly through our own cells. So the next time you see a photograph of the summit of Everest, and a Sherpa standing in that impossible thin air where the human body was never meant to survive, look again. He is not alone up there. Inside him, still working after 100,000 years, is a gift from a species that vanished before history began, a whisper from a ghost, keeping one of the living alive, on the highest bone of the earth. That's the thing about DNA. It doesn't care that a whole species is extinct, gone, erased from the living world. It just keeps the useful gift, tucked away in the blood, and waits, sometimes 100,000 years, for the exact place on Earth where that gift becomes the difference between living and dying. And on Everest, it still is. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Thanks for staying until the very end. Goodbye for now.